Hi everyone, this is Bob Poole and welcome to the Water Cooler Hangout. Today I'm with Gail S. Bauer. Gail is president of Bauer & Company Consulting, which specializes in raising the visibility, revenue, and impact of nonprofit organizations. She's also a professional consultant, writer, speaker, and has over 20 years of experience managing some of the country's most important events, festivals, and sponsorships. So welcome to the Water Cooler, Gail.
Great. Thank you so much, Bob. Glad to be here.
You know, I was looking at the list on your website. I mean, you have worked with everything from jazz festivals to presidential inaugurations. I'm impressed.
Thanks. Yes, it's been a fun time so far. And also I've worked with, smaller events for clients, and the landscape, the spectrum of events is pretty wide and pretty broad.
So how did you get into that business anyways?
Quite actually by accident. I started my career working at an ad agency, and my goal at the time when I left college was to start out in public relations. And, of course, one of the things that you learn about in public relations is that there are many, many ways that you can communicate with audiences. Working in an ad agency was challenging for me because, first of all, I learned a lot about advertising. My background in college had been in English literature. And in advertising, the goal is one message for one target audience, whereas in PR, we're trying to get the message out in as many ways to as many people in whatever medium that works best for them. And so event marketing is a strong part of that. And so as part of my work at the agency, I got two clients involved with fairly large events in Philadelphia. One is an international bike race, and the client was actually a very small in terms of clients at an ad agency. It was one of the smallest clients at the agency, but it was an important move for them. They were literally moving their store from a smaller one to one 4 times bigger, and they were looking for really big ways to get the word out. And so I negotiated a sponsorship for them of this international bike race that still happens in Philadelphia every year. And it's not the Tour de France, but it's just a one-day race. It's a 156-mile road race, and it was a really great opportunity for them. And then got another client involved with another food and cookbook author event called The Book and the Cook. That doesn't happen any longer, but it was a really great event and had a long run. And then eventually I left, and I didn't really think very much about events. It just was part of my experience. But I left and started my life as a freelance writer. And my plan was to get involved with magazine writing, to do PR for a little while, but really my focus was in magazine writing. And two things happened right away. One is I got my first magazine article about the second week I was freelancing. I spent 40 hours writing what would become the cover story for this magazine, small business publication in Philadelphia, and got paid $75, which even at that time in 1987 was not very much money. And I thought, well, I like to eat, so I'm not sure about this whole magazine thing and if this is going to be the path to riches for me. But then shortly after that, I met some folks who were at the Philadelphia Convention and Visitors Bureau who had created several festivals, really wonderful, great celebrations that were designed to put heads on beds, which is Convention and Visitors Bureau speak for, driving tourism into Philadelphia. And they worked with a company called Festival Productions, who eventually took over as the main producers of the event, and they needed somebody to represent them here in Philadelphia, and I was the person. So that sort of, your life and your career sometimes take these interesting pathways that you don't really expect, but this was the start of a 20-year or 20-plus year alliance that I had with Festival Productions, and had the opportunity to not only work on several really great and beloved festivals in Philadelphia, but also some really important festivals in the country, like the Newport Jazz Festival, the Newport Folk Festival, the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival, the Essence Music Festival, and as you mentioned, to both of the largest free public events for both of President Clinton's inaugurations.
Well, that is just a short list there is quite an amazing companies and organizations. I'm impressed. And I know you. We've talked before, but I had no idea that you were doing things like inauguration. So that had to be fun.
It was fun. The first one was even more fun, and every gray hair I have in my head relates to it. It was fun because the scale of it was just amazing. We had an amazing team of people working together. I mean, it's never just one person, but the scale and scope of that event were far bigger than the largest event that this company, Festival Productions, produced. And if you think about it, the election day is early November, and we know by that night generally who is going to be the president. And then the Presidential Inaugural Committee starts working on figuring out what they want to do for the inauguration. And then, they put together some plans. So we were actually brought in, and I think we started right after Thanksgiving. And so we had from early to mid-December through the inaugurations, like the 20-something of the month, 22nd, 23rd. So we had about 5 or 6 weeks to produce an event bigger than the event that our company produced, which takes a team 6 to 9 months, depending on who the staff kind of starts back gradually. So 6 to 9 months to produce the largest event that we produced at that time. And we had 5 weeks to produce it. And, oh, by the way, the folks at the Presidential Inaugural Committee, while they certainly wanted the event to be fabulous, they were more concerned about how it looked on television than how it was actually going to be as an experience at the mall in Washington, D.C. So the scope of it, if you can extrapolate, was just huge because it was not just 500,000 people who came. It was hundreds and hundreds of them, millions of people who watched on television. So
every day was a fire drill, I guess, right?
Every day was a fire drill, yeah. I mean, when we would create the event, and I was the associate producer, and I oversaw the whole business and legal operation of the event. And working with the producer, we didn't even have time for full sentences. We would say, he would say budget, and I would say updated. That was our communication method. We didn't have time for these unnecessary adjectives and adverbs and pronouns, and it was just verbs and nouns. That's it. But it was great. But then, sorry.
No, I was going to say, so what kind of exciting things are you working on today then?
Well, after we worked on the second inauguration, that was I was already on my own for I was already on my own at least 10 years, and all the time I was freelancing as a marketing communications writer and event producer, both for my own clients and also for the festival company. And after we produced the second one, I realized that I just wasn't as challenged as I could be. And so it took me a couple years to realize, I really kind of needed a different pathway. And I knew I needed to make some change, and so it sort of dovetailed at a time when there were some changes going on in my personal life, and blah blah blah. I also hit sort of an existential crisis at the same time, but I really just couldn't figure out what I wanted to do next. And it wasn't that I wanted to produce a bigger event or more events, but I just couldn't figure out what I wanted to do because I had really amassed such a wide variety of skills and level of expertise. I'd worked with a lot of different kinds of companies, both nonprofit and for-profit. I just had done so many different things and produced so many different kinds of events, or written so many different kinds of materials, or been exposed to so many different kinds of marketing challenges, or helped clients work through challenges or problems or take advantages of opportunities, but I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do next, what would challenge me next. And so, long story short, after some soul searching and some work with a career counselor, which was an amazing experience, and also some more specific work with something of a mentor or coach around the line of work I selected, which was consulting, I followed a new path and realized that I had a lot of expertise that would be of value to the nonprofit sector at a time when a lot of changes were happening. So, for example, the way that corporations were working with nonprofit organizations had changed a lot. It used to be they would just hand over a big check and say, good luck with that program, let us know how it works out, to, hey, in exchange for this big check, we want some benefits in exchange for this gift, and what are you going to give us? And that changed the dynamic to look like something else, but to me it looked more like corporate sponsorship, which I already knew how to do. But nonprofits didn't have that. That wasn't the paradigm that they were sort of operating with. So long story short, I decided to focus my consulting practice on the nonprofit sector and help them by sharing this expertise that I had amassed over all these years, and help them improve their visibility and their marketing strategies, help them improve their event strategies so they're more efficient and more effective and had a greater results and greater outcomes, and help them generate revenue through a lot of different sources, including through corporate sponsorship. And now I'm actually just about to, so I launched the consulting practice about 7 years ago, and suddenly found all kinds of new challenges, which is wonderful. I definitely licked that problem of not feeling challenged. And now I'm excited because I'm getting ready to sort of go through another, sort of another reinvention, although it'll be only a mini reinvention, because I think that there's a lot that I can offer to the for-profit sector as well. So I'm getting ready to sort of, redefine my practice and restate the value that I have to offer, and develop some new services and some new ideas, and expand the work that I'm able to do, which I find really exciting. So I'm reinvigorated.
Well, you sound like it. I can tell. What can you share with us? Any of the new services for the for-profit sector you're thinking about offering?
Well, for one thing, I felt that originally my assumption was that the nonprofit sector would benefit most from my work around corporate sponsorship because they were the ones needing to generate revenue, and it's natural for us to think that the person with the money doesn't really need that much help because they're the ones that have the power, the control, it's their budget. And so I wanted to focus on the nonprofit sector so they could understand how important their role really is. And so it's been great. I've had a very positive response, and I feel great about the work that I've been able to do, and I feel wonderful about the work that my clients have accomplished and the things that my clients have accomplished and the results they've gotten. But now, as I've gotten more into this, I see that the for-profit sector, which, face it, we were all pretty hard hit during the recession, and I think a lot of people are still kind of stumbling through the volatility of the marketplace now. And so I think people need, two things. One is I think businesses need some new direction. They need to be recharged. It's easy to get stuck. I was stuck myself, so I know how it feels. But one of the things that I feel like I'm really good at is helping people see possibilities and helping them turn in a different direction, slightly different direction, so that they can see new possibilities. So that's one thing. But number two, back to the sponsorship piece of it, corporate sponsorship is a really, really powerful medium. And I have found, or I'm finding in my work with nonprofits, that I don't think a lot of corporations really understand how to take advantage of sponsorship in a way that can have really powerful business results for them. And those results include building sales, building, brand awareness, building, increasing visibility, driving traffic to a store or an online site. So there are a lot of things that both B2C and B2B companies can do, and I don't feel like they're taking full advantage of a really important medium that they can use as focal points for a lot of marketing opportunities throughout the year. So I feel like now there's a lot that I can share with the business sector as well, and just in those two areas. Those are just two areas. Actually, there are some other things I'm exploring as well.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I can see where for-profit would need that type of a service. So you obviously have seen a lot of changes in the marketplace in the last few years then, right?
Yes, I mean, I think we're all shifting and changing, and I think, I mean, where do you begin? I mean, the recession, I think, is just one piece of what's been happening, but obviously social media has changed the way that we conduct business. I think consciousness shifts are changing the way consumers want to interact with businesses or want to buy products or want to be part of a consumer society. Values are shifting on a global level. One of my next door neighbors is a hedge fund analyst, and feels like the market volatility right now is more about a global correction. And I don't know if he's right or not, but it kind of makes sense to me. I mean, we're starting to see emerging markets strengthen and become more dominant players or more competitive players in the global economy, in the global market. And so it's exciting. So how do we take advantage of all this change and not let it, choke us, not let it hold us back, and not let it paralyze us into not doing anything?
So what type of marketing tactics or techniques are you planning on using? What's been most effective for you, and how's that going to change?
I think a lot of the marketing techniques that I engage are, I guess, there are a lot of things that I do. One, of course, I have a website and a blog, and I have some inroads in social media. I wouldn't call myself a social media maven. I have an e-newsletter. I do a lot of speaking. I do a lot of networking, and most of my business, though, comes from referrals or comes from somebody meeting me or hearing me speak, and we develop a relationship from there. I think the thing that I'm looking at now, I mean, I'm getting ready to update and change and modernize my website. So if you go to it, don't judge me. It's not my favorite website yet, but hopefully you'll also listen to this. For those of you listening in 2012, you'll see a different website. But if you're listening in 2011, my website is going to be under construction for a little while, so you'll see the old one. But I think there are some really interesting people out there who are thinking about content in a different way, and more, one of the things that I know from my own work and that I'm learning about is the role that content and a content marketing strategy plays for both the buyer and the seller. More and more people are turning to websites to learn more about somebody before they go meet with them. They're answering a lot of their own questions. They're a more informed public before they buy something, including the services that I sell. So one of the things that I want to do, because I think it's natural that we're all feeling so overwhelmed with so many things to do and so many hours in the day, and if I could just spend my days writing, it would be really wonderful, but nobody's paying me to do that. So I have to balance out the content development that I do with working with my clients and new business development and so on. So I want my content to be more effective, and I want it to work smarter. And so developing a content strategy and a content marketing strategy that really supports where I want to be going next, and that kind of allows me to let go of some things that aren't really working for me and adding some new things that I think could be really beneficial for the people that I want to target and the people that I want to be working with. So I have some ideas for some new ebooks. I have an idea for a book, a full-length book that I've sort of rattling around in my brain, and someday I'll have time to write them.
What you have a book right now that is on I know Amazon.
Yes.
What's the name of that?
Sorry?
I'm sorry. Yeah. What's the name of the book?
The book is How to Jumpstart Your Sponsorship Strategy in Tough Times.
Well, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And you also do you want to tell people what your website is while we were talking about websites?
Yes, about my terrible website. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, my website is gailbauer.com, BOWER, GailBauer.com. And then my blog, I have a blog currently on sponsorship, which is sponsorshipstrategist.com. So
well, we'll put all that on when we put this podcast out for everyone. We'll make sure that all that information is also on the site so that people can find you.
Terrific. And great.
So, what the book that's rattling around your head? What's rattling? Does it have anything at all to do with what you're doing now, or is something totally different?
No, it does. The book that's rattling around right now is about events. And the more I work with clients around improving their event strategies and helping them think through their events, the more I see the possibility for people learning more about events and deploying events. And so a sort of a theme in my life is events. You know, one of the first events I ever produced in my life was a surprise birthday party for my mom, probably when she turned 40. And it was back in the 70s, and my sister and I secretly planned this very elaborate for, 9 and 12-year-old kids, very elaborate menu. And we planned beef fondue, which was very exciting, with 3 different sauces. So it was a very exciting and very, it was a big leap in our culinary adventures. And so events have always sort of been part of my life. And I think that in the last 5 to 10 years, we've gone increasingly into, mediated channels of communicating, which is great, and opening up all new possibilities. But people still need face-to-face contact. And human beings still have strong social instincts. And for all the people that have talked about social media being all about building relationships and about having conversations, yeah, that might be. But to me, events are still the ultimate social medium. And I think that sometimes we don't appreciate the full value of what events can do. And so I've been developing some intellectual capital and intellectual products around and offerings around events and what they can really do. And some of it's been sort of experimental to see what the response I get, and the response has been really positive, that people are really opening up their thinking and just exploring the possibilities of all the things that they can do with events. And I think events can be critical at a time when we're so technology-oriented. I think we need events now more than ever.
Well, so you need that human touch.
Yeah.
Of other people, and I know I'm really looking forward to seeing what kind of things you come up with in that area. So we'll have to have you on here again to talk about that.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it would be really fun. The book is sort of cobbling itself together. I have a feeling when I sit down to write, it's just going to sort of pour out of me like the last one, and that's a good thing.
So last question today. Do you have any advice that you would offer someone who a freelancer starting out today, or even an entrepreneur?
Let's see. Advice for freelance. Well, I mean, a couple things. I think that now more than ever, I think that people can really distinguish themselves by providing really tremendous service. I'm looking for somebody to design my website right now, as a matter of fact, and I sent emails out to 3 or 4 people on Friday, and I got a form response back from one company. 3 people. Got a form letter response back from one company. Still haven't heard from anyone live. Haven't heard from the second guy, and the third guy has made contact, and but the first thing he told me was that he's unavailable for the next 8 weeks. So there was no offer to speak to me or find out what my time frame was all about. It was sort of all about him. And so customer service is really important. And if you're going to freelance as a writer or as an event producer, you're providing a service, and you will be much more highly valued by being really proactive and thinking through what your clients need, remembering how busy they are, and trying to make things easier for them. So thinking, thinking a little bit more into the future for them and anticipating what those needs are and providing them before they even ask would be one thing that I would suggest to freelance people. And it goes without saying that you need to be the best at what you're doing. You need to write great copy if you're a copywriter. You need to meet your deadlines. You need to do your billing on time. And I don't find that some of these business practices happen. So that would be my suggestions for freelance people. For entrepreneurs, do you want to give me a situation that they might be in? Because you might hear.
Well, someone you've got someone who may have an idea today and is for a business that they're going to build, on a larger scale and build a real business with employees. Maybe it could be technology, it could be anything, but they're looking at today. The economic environment is either, one, you look at it and say, this is a great time to do it, or, I'm afraid to do it right now, or how would I do it? So you've given consulting advice to other people on their businesses, so I was curious what you might say to someone who was just brand new. What would first things you'd say they should do, for sure? Well,
I think the first thing, first of all, to know that the fear can be a natural part of where people are. It is a little scary to go out on your own to try something new, but as you grow into being an entrepreneur, one of the things that I found is that that's sort of a natural state. If you don't feel a little bit of fear, it means that you're sort of getting too comfortable and it's time to innovate something new. And I don't mean like, you have to constantly be wired, but just that little challenge. And I find that anxiety is the flip side of excitement. So it's okay to feel a little bit of fear to get things going, but acknowledge also that you're kind of excited. And then I think around those same two concepts, it's really important to do your homework and to make sure that your idea is a sound one, get some feedback from people. You may also want to think about trends that are coming up in the future and where things might be going so that you're not creating a business that is probably going to not have a solid business model, or that's not something that, that people are going to be needing in the future. Like you wouldn't open a general store right now, as an absurd example. So you want to, sorry?
Or a brick and mortar bookstore.
Yes, exactly, unfortunately, which is really a shame. But that may come around. Who knows? Maybe in 10 years we'll be building bookstores again, I hope. So you want to create something that anticipates where people are going and do enough homework that you're getting some good input and feedback from people to help shape your idea and shape what the product is. Make sure that you're looking at the competitive landscape so that you can carve out your unique place in the market, and that'll help you with how you develop messages about your product and how you go forward. And then kind of you have to go for it anyway. You have to go for it, and so it's one part excitement, one part fear. Go for it, but listen to your fears and make sure that you've done your homework and you've thought through the best angles and the best direction, and that you're not missing a big piece, so you're not blindsided by something. And then it's also helpful to bring in good advisors, good people that can instruct you on how to develop a website or how to develop your marketing, or how to put together a financial structure or legal structure that best suits what you're trying to do, and then go for it and have fun.
Oh, great suggestions. I love it. I especially like your what you said about acknowledging the fear. It's okay to feel a little bit of fear, but then acknowledge that you're really excited, though, too, and that's the positive side of the whole thing.
Yeah. I found that sometimes if you really listen to the fears, they have things that they can tell you, including, you need some information, or you're off base about something, or that maybe it's just fear and you need to just go for it anyway.
I've been doing that most of my life.
I know.
Sometimes it works out. Sometimes it's like batting in baseball. If you can get over 500, wow, you're doing really good. So
exactly.
So anyways, it's great having you here today, Gail. We will have to do this again, and we can talk more about some of your events that you're going to come up with. I like this whole idea of social media becoming more social in terms of face-to-face contact. So I want to definitely hear more about that.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. It's been fun, and I hope this is of value to your listeners as well.
Well, you're very welcome. It's been great. See you. Bye.
Thanks, Bob.